Today on Locked On Rockies, let's talk deals, arbitration deals.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 12th day of October in the year 2022. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team each and every single day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, you got to make us your first listen of the day. And for those that do, we appreciate it. We got some wonderful fans always popping into the live chat here when we record our episodes live on YouTube, on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where your subscription helps the show a whole heck of a lot. So think about heading over there and subscribing today if you like the show, if you like the Rockies and want to support what we do around here. You can also follow the show on Twitter. You can follow me at Paul Holden 33 as well. Who am I? I'm your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden, following this team my entire life, big time fan, and bringing you your daily Rockies talk here for over 2 seasons now. Today on Locked On Rockies, we're going to kind of get into some businessy talk, and we're going to head over to some of the work that Purple Row has did, and we're going to dive into the arbitration deals for the Rockies, because this is stuff that matters and stuff that is important for Rockies fans to know. And sometimes it's kind of a little bit more of those things that you don't always think about and maybe not always understand. And guess what? That includes me too. So we're going to do that. And I also want to talk a little bit more about Dick Monfort's letter to Rockies fans and see just a little bit more, because we already did talk about it, but I want to dive into some of the philosophy stuff and kind of elaborate on why I feel like it was a very templated, like it was on a template message to Rockies fans. And but first, we are heading over to Purple Row here. Skylar Timmons writes, this is again Purple Row. Please go check out and read the article as well over here on the Purple Row blog. Arbitration decisions loom large for the Rockies. Bill Schmidt and the Colorado Rockies have a difficult winter ahead of them. Having missed the playoffs 4 years in a row, each with a losing record, Dick Monfort penned in a letter to season ticket holders that it was unacceptable that this has been the case. He once reiterated their intentions that they are devoting all their efforts this offseason to improving this team in 2023. Make of that what you will. And part of that is going to be the first round of these decisions will come in the form of what player they choose to tender contracts, and some of which are on the bubble. Arbitration is the area. Again, this is Skylar Timmons is writing this over here at Purple Row. Pardon me. Arbitration is the area that will have the most impact on the Rockies' available funds going into 2023. The Rockies have 6 players eligible for arbitration this offseason, and there will be some important moves that could be made to the roster. Right off the bat, we can already pen Brendan Rodgers as a shoo-in to receive a contract and suit up for the 2023 season. The second baseman had one of the more notable seasons at the plate and should be due a nice pay bump from the league minimum. MLB Trade Rumors is projecting a raise to a little under $3 million, which seems reasonable, and the Rockies could even go the route of extending Rodgers to buy out all of his arbitration years. It also stands to reason that Gomber is a lock to sign a contract, likely around the $2 million range. Despite his struggles, the Rockies are hoping that he can bounce back and crack the rotation again in 23, or at least provide some long relief stability out of the bullpen. Either way, he's still figured to be a key part of the Rockies pitching staff, especially with the added baggage of being a piece in the Nolan Arenado trade. Speaking of the bullpen, Tyler Kinley will be an interesting case since he is likely out for most of the 2023 season due to injury. After his stellar work this season, he could be lined up for a nice salary, but the injury puts a damper on things. The Rockies could go the Mike Clevenger route the Padres took and buy out 2 years, with the bulk of the financial bump coming in 24 when he's fully healthy and ready to continue. Looking at the, and I'll let you dive more into the toss-ups here, and I'm going to kind of dive into who I think the Rockies should go after in arbitration. But I think Skyler is right here. These are the three players that you're probably most likely want to see something, Rogers and Gomber especially. Kinley's an interesting one, but I like that idea. Kinley was really good, and someone that if he can come back from the surgery and bounce back and get some action in the end of 23 and be ready to go in 24, that's going to be a good sign for the Rockies because he was a really good reliever for the Colorado Rockies, one that would have helped the Rockies a ton this year and certainly was going to be a big part of their plans before his season ended and that long recovery continued. So I would agree. Those three are the ones you got to get something done. Personally, I think the Rockies need to get something done with Brendan Rodgers now, more so than to let it continue. Because if you're just going to do the arbitration deal, there's more and more likely of a chance when his service time is up that he could go somewhere else. And that is going to be a massive blow to the Rockies as this system comes up. Yes, you have exciting prospects in, Montero or McMahon can move and play your second base. Rodgers is easily the most exciting part of this Rockies team going into 23. I think even more so than Chris Bryant, depending on what the Rockies do in the offseason. I think Brendan Rodgers has the potential, if he avoids a slow start, to be not only an all-star next year, but a leader for this Rockies team and someone that can really help this offense and start generating some runs and kind of be someone that can start rising to that prominence of Rocky stardom that Ryan McMahon just simply has not been able to reach. It's been now 2 seasons where Ryan McMahon has been the Rockies' third baseman and opportunities to kind of rise into the role that we saw Arenado and Story play. But McMahon being DJ LeMahieu is fine. It is. But the Rockies also like having those marketable, big impact, big type of players like Arenado and Story and Blackman have been for them historically. But Rodgers is a stud. Rodgers is great on defense. Rodgers was easily the Rockies' best hitter in the second half of the season and has been more consistent. He was able to bounce back from such a terrible start. And for him to finish the way he finished that season is a great sign. That means he was able to take, gotta be one of the worst, if not the worst stretch of his entire baseball career. And he was able to turn it around into a solid season. Yes, that is, it was a lost season for the Rockies. Sure. But Brendan Rodgers is something that you do as Rockies fans know is someone to keep an eye out and be exciting for. If Rodgers can put the ball over the wall a little bit more, add a little bit more power to that offense, he is going to be awesome. And not only because what more are you already going to ask from him from defense? He is that elite level second baseman that we need. And again, hopefully next year, with maybe some new changes, with a new philosophy, I don't know. The Rockies aren't as bad on defense as they were in the first half of the season. It could be that those will help the Rockies, and not avoiding any headache and any offseason drama and telling Brendan Rodgers and establishing a commitment to him should be a must for the Rockies. I think it's an absolute no-brainer to make sure that Rodgers is a part of this team throughout his service time and the future, because I really do believe in Rodgers being someone that's going to benefit from being with this team and then being around the players that are going to come up and be part of hopefully this next wave of really exciting prospects that can impact at the major league level that the Rockies are hoping for. Austin Gomber, again, you're going to have to get a deal done. Gomber getting back in the rotation makes it easier for the Rockies, and it makes more sense if they don't decide to go with either bringing back Cool or Urania. If Gomber's back in the rotation, you can argue that you're just going to continue as your fifth to figure out what you have, your Ryan Feltners, all of the younger people that we saw this season with the Rockies in their pitching rotation. You don't necessarily have to go back and get either one of those players if you're not looking for them to fill that role. However, could the Rockies bring back Chad Kuhl and Jose Urena? You could easily see it. I mean, I just don't think it would be that far out of the question for the Rockies to do that, just because of the way they've talked about those players. But I mean, for me, I think you want to see something else. I don't think either one of those pitchers necessarily gave you enough to be fully confident, unless you, I mean, you are looking for a fifth man in your rotation at that point. If you're hoping Gomber is going to come back and be the fourth, you could have an interesting thing to bring him back to camp and have them compete with Feltner and any of these other pitching prospects. I mean, we'll talk about some of the ones mentioned, but there's really nothing in the farm system that's super exciting, like we talked about in terms of pitching depth. But with Gomber's attachment to the Nolan deal, you have to continue to try to make it work with him and figure out what role he's going to play, because good Gomber out of the bullpen helps the Rockies tremendously as well. I mean, and that is a benefit. If Gomber doesn't crack the rotation again, but however he did what he did in some instances this season was solid relief pitching, that's good for the Rockies bullpen. It's not necessarily great in the context of everything, but that's how he helps the team, or helps contribute to the team. And I am okay with that. But the Kinley one's interesting. I like the idea of back building it, and but I'd rather the Rockies make one part of their offseason priorities is just figuring out a deal with Rodgers now. Just get it all done and lock him up, because he is going to be someone that is going to be a key contributor for the Rockies here going forward. We're going to get to the live chat here, as well as talk about some of the toss-ups listed here in the article as well for arbitration deals, and a little bit about Dick Monfort's letter. But before we do that, got to tell you about some of the people that make this show possible. And folks, here's the deal. One thing about me is that I have a weird neck. And I know that's an interesting thing to say, but when it comes to dress shirts, I often can wear a certain size, but I can never find the right neck size for me. And as you can tell, I always struggle with my collar. You can look at my cool little track jacket I'm wearing here, and it was all popped, it was all poofy. I struggle with the collared button-up shirt life. That's one of the big reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. The dress shirt was due for a radical reinvention, and Rhone stepped up to the challenge. Rhone's commuter shirt is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible shirt known to man, and it's because of the mobility. It's got the four-way stretch fabric, and that provides the breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way, whether it's your work commute or 18 holes of golf. And you know what? It's easy to look good with Rhone, and you will feel confident because their shirts are wrinkle-free, and they got that wrinkle release technology, and they'll disappear as you stretch and wear the shirt. That's right. As you wear the shirt, it gets rid of the wrinkles. Pretty cool stuff. It's got this anti-odor technology called Gold Fusion. You'll be smelling fresh all day long. And Rhone is 100% machine washable, so you can just ditch the dry cleaner altogether. The commuter shirt can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to Rhone.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/lockedon and use code Locked On. It's time to find your corner office comfort. That's RHONE.com/locked on. In the live chat here, Joel DeGrace says, totally agree. We need to lock up Rodgers. He easily has all-star potential and could be the face of the franchise when Chuck hangs it up. He also adds, I've been pleasantly surprised with Urania, but he'll never be an ace. Eric Harper says, Brendan was my favorite part of this season. And I think that's a great thing to latch on to, Eric, as it's your first season rooting for the Rockies. He's that type of player. Not only is he all-star caliber, I'm with you, Joel. That's what we were kind of talking about in that whole thing is Roger. He's not, maybe he's not going to give as witty an interview, but he is just like Charlie Blackmon and kind of embodies Rockies baseball. As funny as it is, leaders of the Rockies, faces of the Rockies often rock the mullet. They are just some people that go out and enjoy and embrace being a Rocky and are successful at doing so. And it does mean a lot when you are able to watch a player that is successful in purple. That's why they're the faces of the team. And Brendan Rodgers, if he's able to go out and not only play all-star baseball, he can make a national case for himself, because I think we talked a little bit about this on the show earlier as well when I said Brendan Rodgers breakout season on Twitter, and then Rocky superfan Jambron was telling me, well, it's hard to argue that this season wasn't already, but you could say the breakout to the national media is the one, because if we know we do love our talented goofballs. I mean, that's exactly the best way to put it. And it's something that it's one of the reasons why I love the Rockies. I mean, there's a lot of goofball players that are great. The Rockies Hall of Famer is wearing he goes in wearing a SpongeBob shirt. He's getting on the thing. He's got the SpongeBob shirt. I mean, that's why Rockies baseball is great, is because of players like Charlie Blackmon and Larry Walker and Brendan Rodgers, these players that want to be themselves and are unapologetically themselves while also being great ball players. But Joel, to go back to your point there, it's Urania doesn't need to be an ace. He doesn't have to be an ace. He just needs to be good enough for the fifth spot. And I think the last part of the year, if the Rockies actually provided him some run support, his line would have looked a little bit better. So if I was to choose, if the Rockies are going to bring back either Cool or Urania, I think they're going to lean more towards Urania. Matt Gree, Mario Baseball legend over there, likes the jacket. Thank you, Omega 64. They always make some really cool stuff. A couple of the other players facing arbitration for the Rockies this season, again, mentioned on Arbitration Decisions Loom Large for the Rockies here by Skylar Timmons on Purple Row. Make sure you go read it, because I'm not going to read all the stuff about the toss-ups, and that's the most interesting stuff. But Denilson Lamet is eligible for the largest raise. Ty Block joined the Rockies, and Garrett Hampson are three toss-ups. If the Rockies want to focus on out of those three players, I think getting Lamet back into your bullpen is a nice add for the Rockies. I really, really liked I really, really liked that addition. And yes, he was part of the epic 5-walk collapse inning and things of that nature. He also was really strong for the Rockies and had a strong career as well. Prime candidate for the Rockies to be able to get a solid piece into their bullpen, and was someone that you could rely on coming out of the pen for the Rockies. Let's get just a quick look at Denilson's final line for the year. He does finish with that negative WAR. He finishes with a high ERA there. But with the Rockies, his ERA is 4.05 in the 20 innings pitched. He gave up 14 hits, 9 runs, 2 home runs, and walked 10, but 29 strikeouts in that. So averaging more than a strikeout per inning is a good sign. And it was a up and down year. There was a lot of going on. It's not like he was great, but I wouldn't hate to see the Rockies be able to go to keep working on someone and again, see if they can get more out of someone who came in the fourth in the Cy Young voting in the pandemic shortened season. And again, he improved when he came to the Rockies. It was maybe it was just needed more time and more opportunities. But when he was released by the Padres, his numbers weren't good after 12. He had over, he was averaging more than a run per inning. He had a bunch of really bad numbers, giving up 14 runs in only 12 innings pitched. So averaging more than a run per inning there. But with the Rockies, in the 20 innings, he only gave up the 9 runs. So, a decrease there, pitching at altitude, it was fine. But Joel, like you said, indeed, Garrett Hampson, Garrett Hampson we've seen a lot of Garrett Hampson. There's just, do you really go out and do a lot for him? I just think he posted a career worse WAR there, and he just hasn't really been great. And if the Rockies want to use money elsewhere, I can't imagine they are going to keep Hampson around. And Ty Block really wasn't good enough to keep around after his that kind of nice little hot start there, or middle of the year, whenever that was. It feels like an eon ago. So out of all of those toss-ups listed in that article there, I think Lamet is easily one to go after. And I think that's a good move for the Rockies. I think you can get a pretty good value on him. Maybe a little bit higher than what his last year performance might be worth. But I think he's an experienced arm that you can add to a bullpen, and you feel more confident in Lamet than some of the other options you have there. Eric Harper's a Waluigi lifer. Waluigi's a stud in Mario Baseball, man. He's been having a moment lately, and he definitely would have that Alfonso Soriano stash. He was, yeah. I mean, again, folks, if you're ever curious, I know it might be kind of random and weird if you're listening. I do a lot of Mario Baseball stuff as well. You can come see what we do on Tuesdays. But let's wind down the show in segment 3 with a good Dick Monfort rant. I know you guys like some rants every now and then on the show, so let me just rant a little bit about the letter that he sent out, because there's some language in there that is to be encouraged by, but it just seems like this was already pre-wrote for him, other than some stuff, and honestly a little bit of surprise in some of the language used. But before we do that, if you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. Ready? It's delicious. It's indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite. Cookie dough chunk puffs have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All of the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. You can go to Built.com to snag a box for you and the family. It's the perfect treat. Or you can find a really good hiding place and just order them for yourself. Like all Built bars, the new cookie dough chunk puff is covered in 100% real chocolate. That means they're healthy and tasty. Chocolate-covered cookie dough with a light, fluffy texture. So good. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff, whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just need to grab a quick bite. Built is the perfect protein bar. They taste better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built bar. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKEDON15. That's promo code LOCKEDON15, and you're going to get 15% off your order at Built.com. Remember, promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off your order at Built.com. Let's see here. We're gonna just talk a little bit about Dick Monfort's letter, and you can read it in a lot of places. It's out there, but wanted to take a little bit of this stuff. I am shocked at how much he was kind of scathing and burning the Rockies a little bit there, with calling their road record abysmal, defense not what we're accustomed to, or situational hitting was disappointing, and our pitching was inconsistent. Excuses serve no purpose, and we are committed to devoting all our efforts this offseason to improving this team for 2023. And that's kind of part of the stuff that I wanted the real language that I wanted to look there, because really the rest of it is very tempting, especially the last two things. Just talking about the new schedule and gushing about Coors Field. He also mentions the glimpse of top prospects and mentions them. And he also talks about pitchers Gabriel Hughes, Jaden Hill, and Joe Rock. Even though we haven't heard a lot about those, I feel maybe I've missed out on more of those. I mean, I've heard about every single one of these prospects, except for Amador, I haven't heard too much about. But we'll dive more into and get a look into these pitchers, especially that he mentioned in these prospects here this offseason. I'm sure, but those pitchers don't necessarily bring the excitement. But you're right, Joel. He calls out all this stuff, and they're saying they're going to devote to making the team better, but you could have done that in the season. You could have already done stuff, and it's just kind of vague. And I know it's just a letter to season ticket holders. Like, you're not going to write out a detailed thing of, in the off season ticket holders, we're going to go out and we're going to do this, this, and this. I'm not expecting that. But how am I supposed to believe in you dedicating all the resource, I guess, doing all, because when you read that could mean a variety of things. How much is he really willing to buy in to make this team better this offseason? How much of his resources is he really willing to commit to making the Rockies a better baseball team? Now, they can still spend some millions of dollars. They'll be able to point to this and they can do this and that. But is that really kind of sticking with, you are so fed up with not making the playoffs, you are calling for, you're going to do more? Because really, truly, to snap out of this and to compete with the division and all this stuff, there's a lot of change that has to come for the Rockies. And we've never seen Dick Monfort really willing to do that. So what really, truly does it mean to devote all efforts this offseason to him? Because if that just means you're just going to say, well, here we are, we're devoting all of our efforts with the people, with the facilities, with the everything, with the staff, with all of the stuff that we already have now, everyone's devoting their time. I don't doubt that. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. The season, is that enough? No, I really don't think so. I mean, if you're really going to make it better, you got to bring people in. You have to cut ties with old things, of old ideas, old mentalities, to really make this team a better team. And to at least say that stuff gives you maybe a glimpse, but I'm only holding on to a glimpse of hope of activity for the Rockies this offseason and through their activity. But we'll close here with a question from Eric Harper. Joel and Paul, are there any pitchers we have that you genuinely feel good about going forward? Yeah, and I've said this before, and I like the first three arms in the Rockies rotation. I think having Rhone, Kyle Freeland, and Antonio Senzatella is fine. They just need to be better. And Eric, the thing that you haven't seen is those three pitchers can be really good. German Marquez especially was the most frustrating, because just the season prior, when he was an all-star, German Marquez was the best pitcher in baseball for a stretch of time. Kyle Freeland is a really good middle of the rotation pitcher to have. And if he can avoid just the big hits, and honestly, his defense not being terrible for him in some certain situations, his numbers would look better. Senza is the one to be more worried about, but if his stuff is working, it works, especially at Coors Field when you're getting the contact. I think, Gabriel Hughes can be exciting as well. There's plenty of stuff to look forward to, but if you're asking me right now, I still have faith in that first three in the rotation. I just know that their inconsistencies are very frustrating. Folks, Eric, I'm not kidding. I mean, before the All-Star break, going into the All-Star break in there, I don't think there was a better pitcher in baseball for a stretch of time in the 2021 season. He was really, really good, and he cooled off a bit, but he still finished very solidly. I mean, Rhone giving up all these home runs is just so not like him, what we've seen, and that's a big issue that the Rockies have got to fix. But folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks to Purple Row and Skylar Timmons for writing up a wonderful guide to the arbitration stuff for the Rockies. And thank you all for listening and making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Rockies. Follow me at Paul Holden 33. Shout out to Joel DeGrace and Eric Harper and Matt Grief for popping in the live chat today. If you want to be part of the show, subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube. See when we go live and pop in the live chat, and I'll answer your questions live. And we'll talk all about Colorado Rockies, which we do each and every day here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Now that you made us your first listen of the day, go make Locked On MLB your second listen of the day and see what Sully's got to say about the world of baseball, especially in the midst of the playoffs. And hey, you can also stay up to date with all things Colorado sports with the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Nuggets podcast. Big stuff going on right now in Colorado sports. So don't miss anything with all your favorite podcasts on the Locked On Podcast Network. Till next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies